Hey guys, this is Tyler with Maverick Capitalist here. I want to discuss a bit about my ideals and input on land ownership, mostly in Florida, but it's something I see nationwide. I have noticed, especially in more recent years, that Florida is getting way overhyped when it comes to owning land and especially owning property. I will say I've never lived in a state or a country where people are so territorial, you might say, when it comes to this land is public, this land's private, you can't go on this person's land, this land is trespassing. I had spoken about this in a recent video here. I'll see land that looks to be public and then a cop will arrive and say, oh, this is private land, can't be here. And it's really troublesome for me in some ways, because when I look at the pockets of land that are public, they're very small here and they tend to be way overpacked with people. It's just my experience. And it makes it really frustrating, because if you don't own your own land, where the heck do you film it, especially if you're doing videography or if you just want to be outside? You basically have to be on public streets or something. This makes me also look at Florida too as kind of similar to a cartel country or state, because when you look at how territorial it is, and when we look at like gang turf and gang feuds and stuff, a lot of times it's one gang being on the other person's turf and vice versa. I see kind of a problem to come when it's like in October, when we look at this whole homeless issue. These people, they can't be on the street, they can't be in private areas, they basically won't be able to be in public parks beyond a certain hour. It's really terrible in my opinion. Yeah, Florida obviously has a very low property tax. I think it's around 1%. But if the land or the property is so expensive, what does it matter? If you could afford such a hefty bill to buy property, to buy land, you'd probably look at a lot of locations. It also is interesting because we have this concept in the US known as eminent domain, where the federal government or even state government can come in and seize your land if they need it for usage, if they need to build infrastructure that runs through this area or for anything. They can come, yeah, they will pay you a price for it, but they can still seize it. Now, we also see other situations like Alex Jones in more recent years, who was in courts and is now being ordered to pay just exorbitant amounts of money, tens to hundreds of millions in assets and accounts over to the government because of this huge lawsuit. We all know here, if the government's not paid through cash, they're going to go for his property, and that's probably what they've already done. I haven't really looked much into this situation, but this is another example. It's kind of an indirect example where the government very much can use this land if they find something they don't like that you're saying, and essentially they can take it away from you. And that's something that we'll certainly see here in Florida, especially down the road. But you saw this with the Tate brothers in Romania. Andrew Tate is big into not owning anything under your own name, but having shell companies or having trust companies, because it ultimately protects your name from certain situations that can arise. He's very smart in this sense, rather than run the risk of getting all his assets taken from him. When we look at like the US government and this whole concept of eminent domain that goes across the US, this can impact anyone. And that's why I say to people, do you actually own your land? Do you own that property? If you owe taxes on that property or whatnot, government can come and seize the land, they can seize the properties. Many people that have generational farms, they lose land this way because of forfeiture by the government. It's the same problem you see over and over. So you really never actually own it, because if you're still having to pay taxes, and like I said, if you go afoul of the government, you say something they don't like, they can still come in and take it. Basically, it's how it works. And yeah, they might not, like on paper, they might say, well, you have to pay this lawsuit or you have to pay this settlement. But like Alex Jones, this was essentially a situation of freedom of speech. They told him, you can't say this. Total impediment of free speech. And that's why, for me, I used to, even on my channel, I would promote and push land ownership, real estate ownership. Now I don't do that as much. I would push more keeping assets out of your name, using shell corporations, trust, even if you can, putting them in another family member's name in some way, or in a trust in their name. There's various ways to do this. You might be better off in that sense just buying a bunch of gold and storing it somewhere under the ground. This might seem crazy to some people, but it amazes me when I look at all these people, these younger people, especially women, and they think that owning land, and especially owning homes, is so advantageous. It's such a great investment to retain your wealth. And I'm like, crypto does that also. Why don't you buy crypto? That's the most safeguarded asset there from the government. Any situation, you can keep crypto wallets. But if you're starting to pay taxes, and if something goes afoul, even though you own it, you're really just renting it from the government. You don't actually ever own it. And this, especially, I think it's the case in places like Florida, where people see real estate taxes and they think, oh, this is really awesome. I don't have to pay like hardly anything per year. But what happens if you do something or say something your governor or government doesn't like? Or, like I said, eminent domain, they could come in and take it in any situation. The other thing too, in places like Florida, they make up for a lot of that lost income through other areas of taxes, like sales tax, and basically inflating the prices of other consumer goods and whatnot. So you're never really in a net positive situation. This is my opinion here on this situation, and I look forward to everyone's feedback below. Thank you.